A long time ago, I talked about licensed video games of the 90s, where I mentioned that a lot of these games took their license from some unusual IPs like food brands and celebrities. Licensed video games are still a thing to this day, but typically they'll be based off an upcoming movie or TV show. In the 90s, anything went. It didn't matter if it was a property that gamers wanted, some companies just wanted a piece of the pie. So today I wanted to revisit this topic and talk about some licensed video games that I just think shouldn't exist. Because you know what? They just don't make no gosh dang diddly darn sense. Sorry I swore, these games get me so worked up. Maybe it's a broad statement to say that the games I'll be looking at today shouldn't exist. What I mean is, a lot of these licensed games may not have been very good, but a lot of them at least made sense in that they were based off of intellectual properties, or IPs, that were geared toward children. We're gonna start off light with games based on movies and TV shows, since as a medium they are much more understandable as something game publishers would want to license. I mean, what kid wouldn't want the chance to be a Power Ranger, a Ninja Turtle, or Batman? I'm Batman. Then there's more of a gray area like The Mask for the Super Nintendo. While not really a movie aimed directly at kids, kids did like it, and the cartoony aesthetic at least makes more sense to put into a game, so games like this get a pass. But can somebody tell me why dying in this game turns you into Ricky Ricardo? And then you have games like Wayne's World, The Blues Brothers, and Bebe's Kids. They made a game based on Bebe's Kids. Oh my god. Look at their faces! Look at this. He looks like the possum from a Goofy movie.
Who's your favorite possum?
How long does it take to kill these? These are the first enemies in the game. And it will die! Oh, I knocked his head off. Good, I'm making progress, I guess. Maybe I could just pass them? Nope, no, it's not gonna let me go anywhere. I have to fight them. I have to fight the derpy-eyed rat possums. Those double Bill Clintons? I'm fighting two Bill Clintons! I can't get out. I'm pressing all the buttons and I can't get out. This is how I die. Bill Clinton's just gonna smile into my face until he absorbs all the life force out of me. Whose idea was this? The kids who would play video games had no interest in these IPs, and the adults who liked the movies had no interest in video games. Remember, this was still a time when playing video games wasn't considered to be the norm. Games were considered to be for children, and anybody else who played video games was stereotyped as basement-dwelling nerds with no social life. If these games were an attempt to broaden the demographic by appealing to adults, this probably wasn't the way to do it. On the other hand, games based on R-rated action movies like Judge Dredd and Lethal Weapon do get a pass because they're at least based on something where action is to be expected. It at least makes sense that Mel Gibson and Danny Glover are running around shooting bad guys. You know what doesn't make sense? Tim Allen fighting dinosaurs. Because that's what you get in the Home Improvement video game for the Super Nintendo. I mean, don't get me wrong. Back then, some ABC sitcoms could have made some kind of sense for a video game, with their more family-friendly approach. I could see them maybe making a Family Matters game where Steve Urkel's inventions go haywire and he has to stop them from harming the Winslows. Far-fetched, but it at least makes sense for all the crap they came up with back then. So what's the plot for the Home Improvement game? Oh, Tim's tools were stolen. So, dinosaurs. A handful of TGIF shows could have made a lot more sense, especially since TGIF was a much more kid-friendly TV lineup, considering Friday was the night that kids stayed up late. Home Improvement wasn't even a part of that lineup. It was on like Tuesdays or something. Dinosaurs, Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Heck, I can even see a Boy Meets World game where Corey has to run through the halls of his school and avoid Mr. Feeney and Harley Kinder and his goons. Wait, Sabrina the Teenage Witch did have games. Next, we'll look at games based on brands. These games still exist more recently, often in the form of Wii shovelware. And I think many of us still remember the Burger King Xbox 360 games. And did you know there was an Xbox Live Arcade game based specifically on the Toyota Yaris? The Yaris. A lot of these branded games back in the day were based on food. Companies probably thought, hey kid who plays video games, you're probably already fat. You like food, fatty? Well, how's about you play a game based on Cheetos? There were two Chester Cheetah games, Too Cool to Fool and Wild Wild Quest. And of course, McDonald's had to get in on the craze with a number of games, including McDonald's Treasureland Adventure. That one. You tell me these games weren't made to market junk food to fat kids. Look, it even has a scarf button. Oh, it's an actual scarf that comes out of Ronald's sleeve. so he can get to higher platforms. Jokes aside, when I saw that in the options screen, I legitimately thought it was a button to scarf down food in the game. As the game starts, Ronald finds a piece of paper and somehow comes to the out-of-nowhere conclusion that it might be a piece of a treasure map. I don't see it. This game is actually kind of fun, if a little too easy. There's even a bonus minigame that looks like a poor man's Puyo Puyo. You alright there, Ronald? Did you not get enough sleep last night? Hey look, it's the Hamburglar! What does the little guy want? He wants 2 of my magic jewels. One game I actually played as a kid and remember liking was Cool Spot for the Super Nintendo. There was also Cool Spot Goes to Hollywood on the Genesis, but I didn't really play it until I made this video. But Cool Spot was decently fun, and even now it isn't terrible. My cousins and I remember playing it when we were younger, and we had a good enough time. I mean, I played Cool Spot as a kid and I turned out okay. Not gonna let those marketers get into my head. Oh, 7 AM. Time for my morning 7-Up booster. Nothing quite wakes me up in the morning like the crisp, refreshing taste of 7-Up. Lastly, we'll look at games based on celebrities. I really didn't find that many that weren't sports games, which totally makes sense. I'll give those a pass. And while you could argue that a game like the Black Eyed Peas experience shouldn't exist, and frankly I'd be inclined to agree, it at least makes some sense in the fact that it's a dancing game. The kind of celebrity game that doesn't make sense would be something like Shaq Fu or Michael Jackson's Moonwalker. Now there was a game. My brother actually had this game when I was a kid. I remember being scared of it, but I can't remember why. Ah, yes. The mere existence of this game is weird. I know Michael Jackson was huge, especially back then, but did anyone ask for a game where you play as Michael Jackson rescuing children from closets? Michael! Hey yo, Mike! After you find all the kids in the level, Michael's chimpanzee Bubbles comes in to ride on your shoulders. And then you wander around for a bit until you find the bad guy, who leaves you to fight a bunch more of his goons. At which point Bubbles is like, I'm out. It's weird, but not as weird as the arcade version. This one takes a top-down view and actually lets you turn into Mecha Michael. And you know what? I way rather play this than the Spice Girls game. Now I do have one last licensed game that I want to show you, but I just thought it was so bizarre and so interesting that it kind of deserves its own video. So stay tuned. But until then, I think I'm done living in the past. Oh, my other alarm. Can't miss out on those precious reruns of Full House. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you want to see more, feel free to check out one of these other videos you see here on the screen, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. You can also follow me by looking up The Portly Gamer on the social networks below.